The Mandalorian Chapter 3 The Sin. The Mandalorian fulfills his bounty request and delivers the baby to the Imperial client, whom he unsuccessfully questions about their plans for the baby. As a result of a job well done, the client then rewards him with more Beskar steel, enough to fully restore his currently damaged armor. The Mandalorian then takes it to the tribe's enclave, where he uses the Beskar to fully upgrade his armor. However, at the same time he loses some respect from his fellow Mandalorians, who are disgusted with his involvement with the Imperial Remnant. He then returns to Grief Karga for his next bounty, who offers him a job off-world in search of another bail jumper. However, before leaving, the Mandalorian can't stop thinking about the baby and soon realizes his mistake for giving it away to the Imperials. He then turns back to infiltrate the Remnant's hideout and manages to rescue the baby without too much trouble thanks to his new armor upgrades. However, his actions against the guild come with a consequence, and in the process he's attacked by every other bounty hunter in the town, many of whom are quite jealous of his success and want him out of the picture. Of course, the Mandalorian has no intention of going down without a fight, and attempts to take on everyone by himself. Fortunately, he's soon then rescued by his fellow Mandalorians who allow him to escape with the baby in hand while they eliminate anyone who stood in his way. Coming off a darn well-made episode 2, I knew that episode 3 had to really up the ante in order to beat it as my favorite episode of the season. Originally, I wasn't too impressed with it, at least not in the first half. The Mandalorian easily taking out Stormtrooper after Stormtrooper wasn't all too great and kinda boring. There was no tension there, and at times it just felt sloppy. It also bothered me how almost every trooper there was chubby and seemed like they had members of the 501st playing these roles instead of actual in-shape actors. Which I can't say I liked because, listen, I get using the 501st members as extras, but using them in these kind of important scenes just makes it all seem like something from a fan film. It kind of ruined the immersion for me, I'm not gonna lie. And honestly, I wasn't too impressed with the whole Remnant hideout infiltration scene. And at that point, I was starting to worry about this episode maybe being a downgrade from what we had seen last week. Fortunately, and thank God, that all changed in the second half of this episode, when all the bounty hunters get alerted about the Mando's violation against guild code and then proceed to confront him. That's when things really got interesting, and when the rest of the Mandalorians showed up, well, that was simply the cherry topping on the cake. Which is why I'm so torn about this episode. I wasn't feeling it in the first half, but the second half I was loving every minute of what I was seeing. So it's hard to say for me personally on whether this episode beat out the second as my favorite. But hey, I can definitely see everyone else easily having the exact opposite opinion here. There were a few things of interest to take note here that we learned in this episode. To our surprise, the Mandalorians are currently in hiding and seem to be planning something big, which is why their tribe has a rule on only one Mandalorian allowed to leave the Enclave at all times, making it seem to everyone else that they're a rarity despite there actually being plenty living underground in secret. Considering the New Republic are the ones in charge here, I assume this is maybe either the Mandalorians' plan to overthrow the government, as they may see them as weak and want to take advantage of that. Or this is just their way of defying against the rules, as I can't imagine a pacifist government like the New Republic would be too thrilled about an entire culture of people arming themselves to the brim under their watch. In addition to that, we find out what exactly a signet is, which turns out to be a symbol or sigil unique to each Mandalorian marked on their shoulder pad armor. We know from the pilot that the Mando doesn't have one and is still on the search. The Smith does suggest making the Mudhorn as the Mando's signet, but he declines as he didn't earn the kill. We also learn how much of a big deal it is to Mandos to keep their helmet on at all times, which did make me realize what an awful Mandalorian Sabine Wren was, as she spent more time without her helmet than with it on. Remember the infamous Willrow Hood, aka Ice Cream Man from Empire Strikes Back and his ice cream maker? Well, it seems that episode 3 of The Mandalorian has finally revealed to us that, guess what, that wasn't an ice cream maker after all, at least not in the Star Wars galaxy. As we now know in canon, it's called a Camtono, and it's the exact same storage device Hood was carrying on Bespin. When the Imperial client opens the device, it's clear that it's some sort of secure container used for a number of purposes. Now, I highly doubt Hood was running off a Camtono full of Beskar steel in The Empire Strikes Back, but it regardless had to be something important inside, and it definitely wasn't ice cream. I did like it when Greef told the Mandalorian that if he wanted to, he could report the Imperial Remnant to the New Republic, and the Mando simply wrote that off and called it a joke. Which speaks volumes, especially seeing as the New Republic had only been in power by now for 5 years. And already they're being seen as a joke by the general population. That's not a good sign. On that note, I did appreciate how much Greef we got in this episode. He was barely on screen in the pilot, which was disappointing, but I absolutely loved how involved he was here and even had the balls to try and take the Mando on all by himself. It was also a very well done reveal that he survived thanks to the Beskar steel that the Mando earned him too. So I have plenty of hope we can get to see more Greef in future episodes. That entire action sequence of the Mandalorian reinforcements was without a doubt the best part of the entire episode, hands down. Sure, it did feel like something from an animated show like the Clone Wars or Rebels, but that's not a bad thing. It also goes to show how much of the budget is going towards special effects to give us scenes like this. And I think that should explain why the episodes are only around 30 minutes long instead of an hour that we originally had hoped for. But as long as the story is told and told well, along with these amazing special effects, then hey, I'm all for it. It is a little bit of a shame though that we never did get to learn what the Remnant's plans for the baby were. Were they planning to dissect and study it, or perhaps to clone it as everyone is speculating? Either way, this won't be the last time we've seen the Remnant. And I think it's fairly obvious that Giancarlo Esposito's character, Moff Gideon, will be leading the hunt to get the baby back. It really wouldn't surprise me if we have to wait until the season finale to learn about the Remnant's intentions with the baby. Overall, my feelings are still mixed about this episode. First half was meh, but the second half was some of the best Star Wars live action stuff we've ever seen to date. And that alone excites me the most of all the insane potential future episodes we have in store for us this season. But that was my take on this episode of The Mandalorian. Let me know what you all thought about it in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.